to the meeting. Okay, so welcome again to the Rotary meeting. Today is our 39th Rotary meeting for the Rotary Year 2021-2022. And I would like to wish everyone who had celebrated or still celebrating Hari Raya or Eid Mubarak. Okay, we wish you all the best, good health and good life. Have a good celebrations. And then, okay, we have a toast. Can we have a Toastmaster this evening?
Good evening, all the Rotarians and the visiting Rotarians from RI District 3212, from Rotary Club of Virdunagar, Rotarian DG Muthu Anachi, and Rotarian Guruswami Anachi, and Rotarian Tanikai and Rotarian Srinivasan Jairam, and all the Rilarians who are visiting Singapore on the educational trip. And toast to Rotary and toast to Rotary International.
Rotary International.
Rotary and Rotary International.
Thank you, Director Mukund.
Thank you, President.
I would like to know if did we miss up any visiting Rotarians? Please introduce yourself if you are from another club, whether in Singapore or overseas.
Yeah, I would like to ask the visiting Rotarians from RI District 3212 to introduce themselves.
Okay, but that was quite a lot. So
yeah.
Thank you for introducing them. But yeah, perhaps the leader of the troop.
Yeah, myself, Rotarian Tanigai.
Okay, thank you.
District 3212. So we are here with 10 people of youths, and we are having our Guruswami Anachi, who is in Virdunagar, and 3212 incoming district secretary.
Thank you very much, and a warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So I hope that your stay here is fruitful and you enjoy yourself to the fullest.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for that.
And if there's anything that you need, exchange of banners, or you want to have someone to take you out to eat local food, please feel free to call our youth director, Mukund.
Yes,
and then we will arrange something. Yeah.
Yes, he's helping us much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we have birthday celebrants, Enna Hoda, Daniel Baylor, and of course our PP Dr. Shahul. So that's the 6th, 8th, and 14th of May. We wish them the happiest of birthday. And then we also have wedding celebrants. So May is quite a attractive month. Okay, a lot of romance. So Ujal and Li Ting, Anindya and Anisha, Subhash and Kana. Well done, Subhash. Mahesh and Hanisha and PP Mohan. PP Mohan here this evening or not yet? Anyway, well done, well done. Congratulations to all of you, and wishing you many more good years ahead. And again, just now we were talking about this event, right? So now this is running from the 13th to the 15th of May. This is the Rotary Inter-Country, event, and 42,000 Rotarians, okay, will unite. Not all will be here, but we have 1,600 Rotary clubs, okay, in 18 Rotary International districts in the 10 ASEAN countries. So the Rotarians will be coming in from the 13th. Some will be coming earlier on the 12th, but the Rotary International President Shekhar Mehta will be here, okay, on the 13th itself after he goes to Malaysia. So he will be in KL, followed by lunch at Digi Dolly's club, I think, Kulai. That's in Johor Bahru, Johor. And then after that, he will make his way here, and we will meet him on Friday, 13th May at Park Royal Collections. So thank you to those who have already registered. For those who have yet to register, please do so by scanning this QR code. All right, so it will bring you to the Eventbrite. where you can register and you can make your payment there. Okay, we have opened it up to non-Rotary Club of Singapore members. So anyone who is in Singapore and wish to attend this event, please scan this QR code and join us on the 13th of May. So this is not the same as the gala dinner, which will be Saturday, 14th of May. Okay, this is our RCS hosted event for RI President. Okay, so I'll just leave it there for 3 more seconds, just in case any of you would like to actually scan, and waiting to get your handphone out. We are always optimistic. Okay, so I will move on to the next topic. I'll stop share. At this moment, I would like to actually invite, okay, Ms. Pia Mathani to speak to us just a few minutes regarding, what she has planned and what she is doing. So Pia, please, the floor is yours to tell us about yourself and what you're doing.
Good evening to all. And as I told Ms. Palita, it's lovely to be back in this meeting after a few years. I would like to inform you, and I'm glad to inform you, that my recent book and my 5th book was published by Macmillan Singapore. And it was published March last year, and it's titled Structural Transformation, Understanding the New Drivers of Investment, Innovation, and Institutions. Interestingly, at the time that I wrote the book, I began the first line of the introduction with "A new world is here." And at that time, I didn't know that we are headed for a pandemic that would change the lives of everybody on this planet. So, when I was talking to my publishers, they say, well, the relevance of structural transformation gets accentuated in the post-COVID era. What I've tried to do is I've tried to shed understanding on this concept of transformation. Transformation is broad-based. Everybody talks about it, but there's so much more that needs to be understood. And of course, in the span of time that I've been assigned to speak about the book and myself, I think that it's tough to, actually encapsulate everything that I've tried to convey. But what I've tried to do, as the title suggests, is look at the main changes and the main drivers of our economic progress and of our global future. And I found that the changes can be categorized into 3 broad categories, those pertaining to investment, those pertaining to innovation, and those pertaining to institutions. What I would like to tell all of you all is that, this entire concept of technology actually heralding the next revolution. I've tried to actually decode, in a sense, the changes that the new dramatic technological breakthroughs would bring for all of us, what it means. And interestingly, if I may share with you all, I thought the research would take about 2 or 3 months, but the research about the impact of technology took me 6 months. There's so much that we need to understand. And so besides the book, what I'm doing is I write a column for a magazine called Forum Views, which is brought out by the Bombay Stock Exchange. It's brought out once a month. And in fact, I would like to share a copy of this month's edition, which I will be emailing to Mr. Chia, and a copy to Palito. And I also teach at St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. I'm also on the council of what is known as Forum of Free Enterprise, which is essentially an NGO that works to educate and inform civil society and universities about issues of critical economic relevance, critical issues of economic relevance. So I hope this sort of sums up what I'm supposed to speak about. I would have liked more time to share some of my insights, but if you want to know more, you can always Google, and search for the book, and you'll get a summary of what it's about. Now, what I can say is that we are all headed for change, and we need to understand that change in a nuanced manner. And that is what I've tried to do. Thank you.
President Lewis, you need to unmute.
All right, thank you. So sorry. Yes, I'd like to say that we should all just unmute ourselves and give a round of applause to Pia for taking on this task of writing the book and sharing with us. We look forward to reading your book.
Yes. Thank you.
And that brings us to the next part, okay, where I'll ask P. James to perhaps say a few things about these installations.
So, President Lewis, can I go ahead to talk about the changes for next term about the meeting? Okay. All right. So I'm given 8 minutes. So now it's 7:17. Let me do it within 7:25 with regard to my presentation. But before that, let me welcome those friends that have just joined us today from the other clubs. Do listen in to see what's going to happen to our club. So I'm going to do a poll first for our members to ask you of your opinion before I continue this presentation. So if you're not from our Rotary Club of Singapore, just watch the poll and then you make a bet which one will be higher, okay? So we're going to start off with the first poll only for our own members. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer, what meeting mode would you prefer? Once a week meeting with a combination of a club and service meeting, or you want twice a week meeting? Okay, this is for our club members only. Yeah? Would you want once a week or twice a week? Okay, I'm waiting. Just give me I'll give you 5 more seconds to do a poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so out of 30 overall our members who have attended today, all right, I'm just going to end the poll. I'm just going to show you the result. So 24 out of 32 prefer once a week meeting versus twice a week meeting. Don't worry, I'll throw this poll out to, or rather this survey out to other members. Bernie, thank you. Please take note for me. 24 out of 32 prefer once a week, and then 8 out of 32 because I will write in to the other members. Okay, I'm going to do another poll. All right. Now, this time around, I'm going to ask you, what would you prefer in the content? But please listen in before you put your poll. Would you prefer meeting that has only has speaker, which means our current mode? Would you prefer a weekly meeting that has a mixture of speakers and service project? Okay, or sometimes it may be one or the other. Or you prefer weekly meeting that must have a service project followed by a speaker? Okay, what is your preferred mode for next Rotary Year? Okay, so we got 32 of you, so I'm just waiting. Okay, all right, 31, okay, one of you, okay, just nice. Oh, 33, now you have 33. Okay, all right, I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, I'm going to share the result. So generally, what is happening is that for majority of us prefer a mixture of speaker and service projects. So the second highest vote will be the people who prefer service project followed by speaker. And the fewest vote will be one who prefers a weekly meeting only as speakers. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing and I'm going to do my presentation very quickly. Okay, don't worry, Bernie, if you missed it, it is available subsequently. All right, let me just see where am I. Okay, I lost my deck. I don't know why. Okay, but let me just look for it again. Okay, somebody, why am I not seeing my deck? Let me just close a few decks before I can. Okay, found my deck. Okay. So just an update from our board very quickly. I found 2 sergeants at arms, and I want to congratulate Rotarian Jundong and Rotarian Klaus. Klaus is going to do it for another year, and then Jundong has also said, okay, let me try it, you know. So he's going to be our sergeant at arms this year. Okay, and then also want to update the board members is that Rotarian Andy has agreed kindly to be our vice president together with Tom. So now I have Tom and Andy as my vice president. Now I've got my left and right hand. Initially, I'm only one limb, but you know, together with Tom, we have managed to persuade Andy to take on as a second VP. Okay, as I shared before, that the club focus for 22-23 is about a vibrant club, being an inclusive club that value adds to the community it serves. Okay, what does it mean by vibrant club? Having heard a lot of feedback from a lot of you, you want a lot of members engagement, you want online professional development, and you're looking at quarterly programs. So one of the very important thing is that we also want to address the issue or the problem that we say that we want more people to come together to get to know each other. So the first thing we want to do is to do a membership seminar where the new Rotarians, were about 80 new Rotarians over the past 3 years, you know, and this 70 to 80 new Rotarians will go through a whole program. And we're going to involve a lot of very senior Rotarians as well to come together. I think Rotarian Uttam has agreed to help me. Rotarian Joseph has also agreed to help me to pull together senior Rotarians to be part of this program, whereby we will introduce Rotary, you know, right down to terminology and what is Rotary's focus, and then get our senior Rotarians to be there to mingle with them and at the same time share about their experiences in Rotary. And then subsequently, the senior Rotarians will be looking after all our newer members, so that, you know, over time we have a good understanding between what Rotary is with the senior and junior and the new Rotarians. So I'm looking at Suresh here. I saw Stan as well. I saw JK, and I'm sure that, you know, you'll all be there to lend a helping hand in a membership seminar for our new members. So that's one of the ways we're going to do engagement, and we're not just going to do it once. We're going to do it a few times in a year, because our members do travel.
Yeah, I can.
Sorry, could you help me mute? Okay, yeah. So our members do travel, and we're going to arrange a few sessions so that we can reach out to as many new members that has joined us over the past few years. Okay, and then obviously this is taken, you know, that this year has 3 Rotarians looking into this area of membership engagement and membership. So I got Rotarian Vinit, who is running this membership seminar, and I got Francesco, and I got Ting Yong. All 3 of them looking into this area, this aspect. There are going to be many more programs. I can tell you every month, as CC said, you know, is our meeting all about just having a speaker? No, okay. In July, we actually have a membership seminar. Okay, in August, we are having a National Day celebration where we all come in our national costume and have a fun day, fellowship. And then in September, we are going to Malang. Okay, we are going to travel to Surabaya to visit projects. So every month, there will be something exciting for our members, and there's something for everyone. So we're going to have a brochure on RCS. We're going to have a calendar. We're going to have a training schedule. We're going to have infusing training also in our club meetings. So what's going to happen is that we have already voted just now. A lot of you prefer one meeting, but we're going to get the consensus of more members. I'm going to send an email and get more people involved in deciding, you know, what's going to happen in the in the new Rotary year. Okay, and then we talk about weekly speaker versus having a mix of service and speakers. So we are going to also reach out to more people to find out what their consensus is. But surely you're going to get weeks whereby you're going to have solely speaker. You're going to have weeks whereby it's a mixture of speakers and service, and you're going to have weeks that is, you know, just fellowship, which allows for people to mingle. So so these are some of the things that I will also be finding out from members over the next few sessions. All right. So What else am I going to share with you? The proposed club meeting, actually, we were thinking of is having a club meeting or networking meeting whereby we have speaker or we have a network session, but still have a speaker. And then subsequently 2 club meetings that's focusing on 2 services. So you're going to hear about what are the services about, and you're going to hear about them also bringing speakers that talk about what their project is about. So it's going to be a mixture of service. It's going to be a mixture of speaker as well. And then on the 4th week, we're probably not going to meet. We're going to just go and do service together. And then if there's a 5th week, let's do fellowship. All right. So these are some of the modes or the things that we are proposing, and we're going to flag it out to all members, and we're going to get more opinion from all of you. So send in your preference and let me know. Okay, what you're going to get is also a Google Calendar. It's going to be an Excel spreadsheet, and then it's going to be key in the Google Calendar, and everybody will know what the whole year's program is all about. I really planned the whole year's program for you. You will get an email with a PDF file of the whole year's program, and you just need to follow the whole year's program. And then along the way, we'll just update the Google Calendar, and you'll appear in your Google Calendar. Okay, so how much time do I have left? Actually, what time is it now? 7:20.
You just finish it, no worries.
Okay, so this is you just saw the invite that went out to everyone. So please do sign up. I know it's a Google form. It's a bit complicating. If you are not sure about the Google form, just give me a call or just give Bernie a call, and we'll help you with the Google form if you're not familiar with Google form. And we are looking at not just a dinner, but we are looking at a fundraising event for the Football Plus, which is that morning. We're going to look at a soccer carnival that morning, and then followed by the dinner where we're going to raise funds for that field. Though the field is going to be done then by June, but a lot of money has been thrown in from their reserves and for their operations fund. So we are actually raising that 100,000 to pay for the field, so that the rest of the money that they have goes to running the program for the year. So we're looking forward to everyone coming for the installation and be part of this meaningful program. And also the Sister Club event, I also sent out info about the Sister Club event. Do join. CC, you're going to find it very exciting in June. There are a lot of programs that caters to all of us. So you've got questions, do email me or give me a call at my WhatsApp, and then we can talk further. Even wherever you are, whichever country you are, it's so convenient that you can just pick up a phone and just give me a call. So I hope you have a better understanding of next year, next Rotary Year. I'm going to tell you more over email. I'm going to tell you more over the next few weeks. Okay, so I've taken too much time. Thank you very much, President Louis. I've exceeded by 4 minutes. My apologies.
Thank you, PE James. Wonderful program. Class is dismissed. Why did I say that? Because PE James is a vice principal of a school. So how he did it was like, you got 1 year curriculum, just follow. You cannot say you don't know what's the timetable, just follow it, all right? Sounds like what I'm always saying to my son. How can you don't know?
It's an occupational hazard.
That's right. And I hope CC don't mind. I use her, you use her. I wish she was wearing her hand polio jacket. Now she stand up, and then hopefully we can sell a few more jackets. Anyway, good sport, CC. Well done. Okay, so back to the program. Okay, so this will be installation dinner. Don't forget. Okay, it's a very important event. Always very important for our club. 25th of June. Okay, it's our installation dinner, and you can see black tie event. But before this, on the 24th, we have sister club events. So for members, do not miss out. 24th, 25th of June. You must keep your dates available, okay? So you can see Sister Club is 24th, Football Carnival 10 a.m. on the 25th, and then we have the installation and fundraising dinner on the 25th. All right, so no QR code for you to scan, take a picture. Take a picture so you will remember, all right? Next up, we will have Director Louisa Lee to introduce our speaker for this evening. Louisa, please.
Thank you, President. So it gives me great pleasure to be the one to be introducing our very inspiring speaker for tonight, Mr. Sazzad Hossain, who incidentally is logging in from San Francisco. And those of you who know US timing, he actually woke up at like 4+ in the morning just to be with us today. So really, really thank you so much, Sazzad, for this honor. So I was introduced to Sazzad by Bjorn. Some of you may remember him as our previous invited speaker from Edible Garden City, as they were both Ashoka Fellows. So when Bjorn and I were conceptualizing our Moringa Tree project, we wanted to have a community angle to the project. And that was how I was connected with Sazzad, because and I actually met him for the very first time on International Migrants Day. And because Sazzad has been doing a lot of amazing work with our local migrants community. So thus was born the Seeds of Friendship project, which some Rotarians here have participated in, whereby, Rotarians actually brought home seedlings where we nurtured and then we transplanted at a migrant workers center after a wonderful workshop conducted by Sazzad. And also we had a meal together with our migrant brothers. So Sazzad is the CEO of SDI Academy and SDI Global. So it's a company that he founded when he was actually still a student, sitting for his A-levels. And it's a passion project of his own that has grown far bigger. And I hope that he'll be sharing a little bit more about that with all of you later. He's currently on to his other project called DoorMart, for which I think it's the reason why he's in the US right now, going through a fundraising rounds. Again, an amazing concept whereby he's looking at upgrading the food quality for migrant workers, but also, with a tech angle. So another amazing project. He's a Forbes 30 Under 30 Social Impact Award winner in 2021, a Ashoka Fellow, Fellow of the Royal Society, a Kairos Fellow, an Obama Asia Pacific Leader, and an author of a book called Dr. English. So today he's sharing with us Unconventional Wisdom, Accelerating Social Impact. So this is actually the synopsis that he shared, and I thought, I'll just read it because it's really very snazzy. So what does the Nigerian prince scam have to do with social impact? Why did Van Halen not want to have brown M&Ms in their snack for their tour? How did Coca-Cola drive environmental impact while increasing their sales? So in today's sharing, Sazzad will try to ignite the innate curious thinker inside all of us, connecting the dots for us for seemingly disconnected topics to reimagine social impact, as well as to cultivate collective brave action to make the world suck less. So let's join me in welcoming Mr. Sazzad Hossain.
Thank you, Louisa, and thank you, everyone. It's a great honor to be here, to be surrounded by a lot of you who are, veterans in the industry and been doing amazing work. I had the good fortune of meeting some of you during our previous workshop that we led with the migrants on the Seeds of Friendship. So it's good to meet a lot more of you over Zoom now, and hopefully we can do something great together in the long run, now that the restrictions in Singapore are a lot more eased up as well. So thank you, Louisa, for the introduction. And for today's session, of course, wanted to share some of the work that we do and how we can make the world suck less. That's been my motto. In fact, it came as a newspaper headline about 8 years ago when I wanted to do that, right? Because we are surrounded by so much negativity around the world. So much things have been happening, and I think there's so much we can do to make it suck less, and in any way possible. So today I'll share a little bit. Let me just share my screen. Yeah. So as Louisa mentioned, I'm extremely passionate about the migrant ecosystem and trying to do what we can through different ventures, trying to combine the art of entrepreneurship as well as social impact to make it sustainable and impactful. So today, beyond just sharing about what we are doing, I'll also share a bit about my story, how it got me into starting ventures around migrant workers instead of going to medical school like my parents wanted me to go. Second of all, we'll talk a bit about some fun things around the world where it seemed very unconventional, but it actually helped to make things a lot better. And the third part that we'll share is how can we, apply some of this unconventional wisdom in the things that we do, as well as even in our life to make our life better. Because once we start to make our life better, we can actually collectively make the world better. So yeah, I'll start the premise with talking about the overall vision and this ecosystem in migrant workers, because a lot of us, we know that we have a lot of migrant workers in Singapore, but we don't know exactly how many and what is the issue here, right? So it started with a very simple mission that there are 1.4 million migrant workers in Singapore, but most of them are not able to comprehend safety instructions that are conducted in English. It's just a very simple premise, but we want to change that. And the way that we started changing that is through providing very simple English lessons to migrant workers that are intuitive, that are very, very much catered to what they're doing. So what got me to do this, and I like to share this picture from a very long time ago with our old logo, as well as my bald head, because this is when I was in national service, and I started my venture just before that. And the thing is, the reason I'm so extremely passionate is I went through similar struggle. So my story started when I came from Bangladesh to Singapore when I was 11 years old. But I was very lucky. I came here with my parents. My dad was working here, and eventually my entire family moved here together. But even though I came with so many supports and a lot of things, and I used to study in a relatively good school back in Bangladesh. And just to give the example, right? So in Bangladesh, if you want to get into good schools, you have to take admission tests. Staying in the neighborhood is not enough. You have to get an admission test because there's just so many people. And for the school that I was aiming for, there was I had to compete with about 120,000 people for a spot of 65. This is just how competitive, just because of the sheer population, right? And I managed to get in. So at that point in time, I thought I must be pretty smart since I managed to get in. But then as soon as I came to Singapore, I got an ego check because as I was taking admission tests to get into classes, so I was supposed to be in grade 6. And then the principal immediately said, no, grade 6, in primary 6, you have to take the PSLE. So you shouldn't try to even get into P6, try P5. So I took the exam for P5 and I failed really terribly because of the language barrier, right? And then he's asking, go and try for primary 4 instead. So I'm like, I'm already very disheartened because I dropped a year, and now he's asking me to try again. And I tried primary 4 and I failed again. And then he was asking to try primary 3. I'm like, at this rate, I'm going to go back to primary 1 in no time, right? So but my dad managed to convince the principal and say that just let him try primary 4. If he doesn't do well, then probably we can try again. But otherwise, 2 years is more than enough, right? So I lost 2 years just because of the language barrier. Eventually I caught up with the system and managed to understand. And did relatively, decently for my PSLE and my O levels. But the whole premise was that because of the language barrier, I had that issues and losing 2 years of my life, right? But for migrant workers, as I started to learn more about them, as I started interacting with them, I realized a lot of their lives were in danger because they couldn't understand the safety instructions. So my journey started with them. As I would interact with some of them, below my house. I used to live in Lakeside. So I grew up in Lakeside, and there's a lot of migrant workers dormitories near my house. And, we'd bump in the road. Some of them would be walking towards the mall and asking for directions. And I'd speak to, once they asked me for directions, I'd, reply to them back in Bengali to surprise them. And they'd be pleasantly surprised. And that's how it started the conversation. And I'd see familiar faces, we'd be friends over time. And then they would take me as their younger brother because they would miss their family back at home, and they really share everything. And that friendship grew over time, right? So I started learning more about their life, their struggles. They would invite me over to their dormitory. I would, really see their lifestyle firsthand, just how things are, but in a very open and honest way. So that's when I started learning about some of the struggles of their life, from getting exploited at the workplace at the beginning by agencies and various other issues, to the quality of food that they receive, and to the kind of issues that they face in upgrading themselves. So it was very shocking that a lot of them were trained for very different skill sets before they came here. And the only reason they didn't know what they signed up for is because they didn't understand the language, the contract. And then in the workplace, they wouldn't understand the safety instructions. So, you know, they tell me that, you know, they want to upgrade themselves, they want to go for course upgradation, and they wouldn't be able to pass the exams, even though they are very proficient in their skills, just because they couldn't understand the language. So, you know, that sort of hit me, right? And I was like, you know, maybe someday when I'm rich and successful, I'll do something about this. But I really wanted to do something about this. But one incident that sort of changed my perspective and pushed the urgency to start, you know, even before I went to national service was that one of the migrant workers that I know, his friend was an aircon technician, and he was repairing the aircon, but there was a safety briefing that was done beforehand, and he couldn't understand what was done, you know, what was said in the safety instructions. He just, you know, nodded his head and went ahead. And as he was repairing, there was a gas leakage, and he panicked. He didn't know what to do at that moment because he couldn't understand this instruction. He used his bare hand and his hand to stop the leakage, and his hand got charred with the cold gas pressure and all of that. And eventually it had to be amputated. And he had a 3-month-old daughter. I went to visit him in NUH, but that shook me. That was just before my O-levels, and I was thinking, oh my God, he was the only breadwinner of his family, and now he has nobody, you know, no one to help him support his family. So that sort of got me thinking, like, even though English is such a simple thing, it could be a life-saving tool for some, you know, a lot of these migrant workers. And every day that I delay, and lives are in danger. So that's what, you know, really shook me, and think that, you know, I don't have to wait until I'm rich and successful and have the resources. I can start now with whatever I know. So, and it was a solution that was given to me by the migrant workers themselves. They asked me, could I teach them, you know, on the weekends? So at the point in time, I was busy with my O-level preparation, and I told them that, let me finish my exams and then I'll get back to you guys. So I finished my O-levels, I went to junior college, and that's when I started talking to them and started teaching them on the weekends. And at the beginning, there was, you know, the people that I knew, all of the migrant workers who were from my neighborhood, who I grew to know them over years. So there's like 5 to 6 of them that would come for our classes. They're really passionate. So we used to teach them in a park, in Taman Jurong Park. And they would be super enthusiastic. And I would just use my primary school textbooks that I used myself several years ago. But I was trying to do that without any kind of structure, but focusing really on the kind of different needs that they had. And that made all the difference, because I could relate with the kind of struggle that they had with pronunciation, because as a you know, Bangladesh-born Singaporean, I had similar struggles with the pronunciation, with the kind of sentence structure, and I would just use them, and they would be really impactful. Some of them have tried many other English academies before, but none of them could actually relate to their specific problems, right? So I was like, okay, seems like this is really being helpful. So I wanted to impact more people. So I was very ambitious. I was thinking, if I'm going to put in the work, I don't want to just impact, you know, 5, 6 people. I want to impact hundreds of people. So what I did was that I told them, you know, now that we're doing this and this looks like it's quite effective, let me take some time and properly use the structures. So I ordered a lot of books from India, Bangladesh, China, as well as UK, to understand the different sentence structures and what was done differently in these countries versus what was done, what we went through in Singapore and other parts of the world. Why is it that some of the university graduates in some of the developing countries like Bangladesh, India, and Southeast Asia, we struggle with English, where it comes so naturally for a lot of the English-speaking countries? And then I realized it is just because the way English is taught. It is not rocket science, it's just the way it is taught. And the way it is taught in Bangladesh, India, the way that I learned in Bangladesh was through grammatical structures and all the different sentence structures and definitions. But as a child, that's not how we learned the language. We learned the language with simple words that we needed, like mother, water, milk, things that were necessary for us. And then we slowly expanded our vocabulary, expanded the sentence length, and then we started speaking fluently, right? And that's something that we wanted to reverse engineer. So I asked the migrant workers, what are some of the things that you need every day? What are some of the conversations that you struggle with every day? So they would say that, asking for directions, doing safety briefings at the workplace, and all of that. So then we sort of broke it down into words, phrases, and then the full sentence structures. And that's how I designed the curriculum, and I launched. And I did, after 8 months, I was ready, and I told all of them that, this time, please, share this with your friends so that we can do this. And what I did was that I booked a hall room in one of the community club that had about more than 200 seat capacity, because I was ambitious. I was like, I'm not going to train 10 people, 20 people. I want to train hundreds of people. And it paid off, because this migrant brothers, they went to spread the word. And on the first class, we had 134 students turning up for the classes, then and that made all the difference. So as I shared the model with them, they were really impressed. They really loved it. And then came the issue about sustaining it. How could I sustain this? Because at a young JC boy, I only had my pocket money savings, which was enough to pay for first day of booking, but we couldn't continue that without the sustenance. And people are very happy to chip in to support the cost of the classes. And that's how the journey began with SDI Academy, how we went on to train more than 18,500 workers over the past 8 years, both physically as well as virtually. And now we're trying to do a different aspect of the needs for migrant workers and what we can do. So I'll share the details about the 3 ventures that we are working on in a brief manner. So that'll be the first part. But I'll set the premise about the issue of migrant workers in Singapore as well to get us better context, right? So migrant workers in Singapore, they come from countries like Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, China, Thailand, Myanmar, Philippines, and Malaysia. And they speak several languages, different languages than what we are familiar with. And they form 38% of our working population in Singapore. Yet we don't know much about these migrant workers. So research have shown that migrant workers are actually 3 times more likely to get into workplace accidents compared to their native counterparts because of the language barrier. So that was another validation that this is very important. It's a simple change, but it could make a lot of difference in the way things are done, in the way people approach. But English was the first step, right? So, and it even is affecting the productivity level in companies, from task allocation to execution. But most importantly, there's a lot of this barrier itself that caused, beyond just the language barrier, it also caused a lot of psychological barrier for people to comply, right? So that's how the vision for SDI Academy was born. So we wanted to empower by educating, instead of focusing on issues which was not in our hand, but just by being empowered with the education, migrants could take charge of their own problems and issues and be at better capacity to make that changes. And on the other side, we also wanted to build an inclusive society. How can we bring migrants and locals together? Which is one great example when we did the workshop at Seeds of Friendship. And I think that's something that we want to do continuously through different approaches, different ways. And I'll share some of the ways that we tried and we'd love to share. Right? So as I was sharing that we trained more than 18,500 migrants, both through our app digitally, as well as through our physical classes. And our main focus is to customize it based on the industry, based on the native language that they have. So these are some of our classes, pictures from our classes, especially before COVID, when we used to be a lot more vibrant. And now things have moved digitally, but now we're trying to go back again. And to make it even more easy for migrants who are not able to spend so much time, we also launched a book called Dr. English, and we made it very simple but effective for them to go through beautiful illustrations so that they're focused on what's important for them, right? So we use their native language and make it as easy as possible for them to understand and follow. So that was the first part, right? And then Luisa shared about our second venture of DoorMart. So again, the issue about DoorMart came, I never wanted to get into the space about food, because I love eating, but I don't know much about the food, how it comes from and all of that. But I had to jump directly into it because we saw that migrant workers we're struggling with the food quality, because the food quality that they are having is extremely poor. It gets rancid by the time it gets delivered to them. And most importantly, the way that it's served, it does not, serve them with dignity. But in the long run, it's also affecting their health, because food comes with a lot of oil and not great ingredients, and this caused chronic illnesses like hypertension and diabetes. And these are some of the studies that was done by independent NGOs, and these are alarming, because you don't see the effect immediately, but there's a long-term impact for their health, and most of them are the sole breadwinners. So the mission that we started at DoorMart was to deliver smiles, right? Make people healthy and bring convenience to them. So the problem that we started off with is that migrant workers, they work 12 to 15 hours a day. And as shared, there's about 1.4 million migrant workers in Singapore. And the dormitories that they stay in are very far away from the city. So for us, it's quite inconvenient. We go down to the FairPrice or Sheng Siong. But two things happened. One is that they didn't have access to FairPrice and Sheng Siong because of the location that they're staying. But at the same time, Sheng Siong and FairPrice did not also have the specific kind of ingredients and products that they're familiar with for some of their own native dishes, right? Second part is that there are catering options available, but these are, as mentioned, of very, very poor quality. And I'll share some pictures later on as well. And this does not help migrants in the long run. A lot of them are just only eating because there is no other way out. So what we wanted to build was a convenient and affordable solutions with very much curated products that are for the migrants, right? So we have grocery and we have the catering option through a mobile app to grow this. And one thing we realized was that it also provided a lot of opportunities to have a very effective logistics model, because migrants, they live in large dormitories with great order density, which a lot of e-commerce does not also have the advantage of. So we wanted to use some of the living conditions of migrant workers as an advantage to make sure that we're able to deliver at the most affordable rate possible, so migrants are able to get access to all of these opportunities. So we were looking at a subscription-based model where they do monthly subscription, and it's very much catered to what they do and what they're familiar with. So we did some exclusive partnerships with some of the importers of food that they are that they used to have back at home, and we use the cluster delivery model because we deliver to the dormitory and it becomes much easier for them to collect. So that is the second problem. And then now looking at the issue about SDI Global, as I mentioned earlier, that migrant workers, when they first come to Singapore, they pay an exorbitant amount of agency fees, ranging between $12,000 to $14,000, right? So for white collar jobs, usually we don't end up paying for our jobs. Usually the employers are the one paying to the recruitment agencies. Unfortunately, for migrant workers' case, it's not the issue. They pay themselves, but also they go through multiple layers of middlemen, because in their village, they don't know who to approach. They have to reach out to a lot of middlemen who will connect them to the training centers. Training centers will connect them to the employment agencies, and then the employers in Singapore. So there's a lot of unnecessary layers that adds up, and at each layer it adds to $3,000 to $4,000. So it ends up becoming $12,000 to $14,000. And as most of you know, they only earn about $700 to $800 per month. So that brings to 17 months of their salary for the first migration that they have. But it's not just for the migrant workers. For the employers themselves, there's a big skills mismatch, because these agencies are so fragmented that they only have a few supply of a few hundred people, and they'll just match them with whatever the basic bare minimum requirement is, and just to send them over. So if there's a requirement for them to be skilled, it doesn't matter which skill it is. As long as it's a skill, they'll just train them, and then they'll just send them over, only to realize that the job that they're sending them for is very different from the job that they're trained for. So they have to be retrained again, and it was a complete waste of time and money and effort in the first place to be training them for a different skill altogether. So, and you'd be shocked to know that this 88% of the time, they're mismatched to the job that they're doing versus the job that they're trained for, right? So that's that is the premise of us focusing on through SDI Global. How can we make this ecosystem better, right? So what we are doing right now is also, again, through a technology solution, is to make it 90% cheaper for the migrant workers compared to the current alternatives, and 8.5 times more efficient for the employers to hire and understand the background and what they're needing, and directly accessing and making sure everything happens, right? So all of that just reduces the friction in the middle, and we try to grow this as much as we can. So on the employer side, they create their own profile. Migrant workers, they create their profile, and then there's a AI infrastructure that we are building to make it hyper-localized using NLP and recommendations engines to basically provide the right kind of match, but also to go through their resume and automatically generate a resume, because a lot of them are not familiar with making the resume based on their skill sets and some of the certifications. And then we automate the entire process to cut down the cost. So that is the overall vision that we want to do, right? So how migrant workers can be hired digitally, and they can access the employers directly. So the long-term vision is to integrate all of this together into almost like a one-stop portal of for the migrants, where they will be able to access different services from education to jobs to food. But we're building the different pieces at different phases to make it all work, and that's how we are growing, right? So that's sort of the basic understanding of what we do. So even though the focus has been on social impact, I never really wanted to just look at it from a purely social angle, because the thing is, what I realized is there's been a big gap between the startup world as well as the social impact scene. And I think, and don't get me wrong, I think in the social impact area, we all have great intentions, but we are not moving fast enough to tackle the hardest challenge in the world. And if we don't do that, we can't grow, right? Whereas the startups in Silicon Valley, in different parts of the world, they move fast, they are agile, they break things and make this work. But if we are not able, so if we can actually combine the best with the heart of a social organization and the mindset of a startups in Silicon Valley, then I think we can definitely leapfrog the thing. So this is what Sean Parker, which is the founding president of Facebook, who was the founding president of Facebook, said for his Parker Foundation, right? We will apply the lessons learned from Silicon Valley startups to our philanthropic initiatives. We must move fast, make concentrated bets based on our convictions, and have the courage to make mistakes and learn from them. So that's sort of the mindset that we started with, and we're trying to use innovation a different aspect. So, which is why beyond just focusing on the training, we also did a community building. We wanted to go beyond just becoming an academy. So we try to organize various events, and some of the ones that we did together, and we can do a lot more to do social outreach programs to help migrants have this ability to connect with one another, as well as connect with the rest of the locals, to be able to be integrated in a very seamless way, right? So that's something that we're doing. But I wanted to share something more fun, right? How do we think, and how can we think in an unconventional way so that we are able to leapfrog our thinking, and we can also implement some of this in our daily lives as well as in our work and some of the other initiatives that we run. So I'll share three interesting cases, right? Some of you might have heard of them, but I think some of you might not. But what we want to draw parallel to is that how can we use the lessons from the most ridiculous cases like Nigerian print scam to actually drive them towards what we can do best for the social impact areas that we want looking for. So I think a lot of you might know that there's a issue of scams going on, increasing, especially during the pandemic. But it all started in the past with the Nigerian print scam, which is, I think, one of the largest scam that was going on, where people would promise you an obscene amount of money because some Nigerian prints they're not able to get access to hold of that money, and people get all these ridiculous emails, and it's so obvious that these are scams and fake emails. I mean, nowadays it makes it they're getting smarter, but generally they make it very very easy to see, especially if you just dig through it. It looks very simple that this is definitely a scam. But why would they do that, right? Why would they make it so easy for people to realize? Why don't they make it be a bit more clever and try to hide the fact that this is not a scam? And the reason is because these guys who are working behind, they send millions of spam emails to everybody. And if they are actually clever, then and a lot more people fall for it, then they'll get a lot more emails back. And then they'll have to reply to all these emails and then follow up and try to keep up with this whole scam that is going on. But the reason they make it so obvious is that only a handful of them, people who are really gullible, will actually fall for it. And then majority, like almost 95% of the people would actually know that this is a scam and they'll just avoid. And these are not their target audience anyway. Their target audience are people who are really gullible to fall for it, right? So now what do we learn from this, even from scammers, is that we need to know how the people that we work with, how do they work? So this is for them, they're trying to segregate their target audience from day one by making it as simple as possible, as plain looking as possible, so that only the people who are most gullible fall for it. And they understand their customer segment really well. So the thing we can do is that we can focus on the people that we want to impact. Of course, in their case, they're impacting people negatively, but we can use the same logic for the people that we want to impact positively as well. All right, so I'll move on to the next one, which is I think a lot of you might be familiar with the band Van Halen. So David Lee Roth, he shared this story about how they used to think. So they were very, very meticulous about the tours they used to organize around the world, right? So they used to have a very thick booklets of all the very specific instructions. So on page 57 of their instruction to the organizing people, the agencies who would organize their tours, they wrote under the munchies section. So they had like fruits, hot drinks, and under the munchies section, they have potato chips, pretzels, and M&Ms. And then they put it in bracket, absolutely no brown ones. So why would they ask for no brown M&Ms, right? It's are they secretly racist towards the brown M&Ms? What is happening here? So, and he revealed that much later. It's very interesting, is that for the tour to happen, there needs to be a lot of the checks and balances, because anything can go wrong, because at these stages and the production sites, all of that requires very meticulous safety checkings. And the only way that he could ensure the safety, everything was in place, is that he will put some of the specific kind of specifications in small letters to understand that everybody has read through it and have followed everything. So so the way that he easily would actually check is that as soon as he arrived to the area of tour, he'd go and check at the backstage if there were any brown M&Ms in the jar. If there were any brown M&Ms, means that these guys did not read through the entire instructions well, and that means they need to check thoroughly about with the linemen about the setups and then prevent any kind of issues from happening. So this is like a quality assurance kind of model with a very simple hack, right? So this is how the Van Halen used to think. So there's a lot of things that we can learn about how do we do quality checks in a very simple and cost-effective way. So the third one that I want to share is one of the world's largest brand, Coca-Cola, and how did they drive social impact, but at the same time also drove their sales up, right? So as most of you know, Coca-Cola also runs a lot of water brand. So we have Dasani, we have a lot of things. So in Japan, so in most countries, their water brands are also one of the top few, either first top 2 to 3, right? Except in Japan. So in Japan, they were, I think they were 5th or 6th at the point in time, and they were struggling. Why are we not doing as well in Japan as the other countries? And for them, what they realized was that the reason they're not doing so well was because the houses in Japan are very small. Now, what has a small size house got to do with a water brand doing anything, right? Now, it turns out that because the houses in Japan are so small, they also have a relatively small rubbish bin. And Coca-Cola bottles are very bulky, and people are throwing, and these would add up and take up a lot more space in the rubbish bin. That's one. Second of all, Japanese people are generally very environmentally conscious. So they didn't like how, you know, disposable the plastic bottles used to be. And so they did a campaign where they were driving that you can twist and turn, and these are biodegradable bottles where you're able to, you know, save the space and crush them. And it's like a three-step campaign, and you're able to save the space, and you can also utilize this to grow plants. And I think Coca-Cola was, you know, really focusing on the green campaign. And within just 3 months, their sales went up by 37%, and it became one of the top brand in Japan again. So how Coca-Cola harnessed it, their insights, and really understanding the customer segment, and then changing their way of doing things, also shows us a lot of idea about how can we focus on the people that we want to impact, right? At the end of the day, it's all about understanding what they need. And we have to think different. So we have to combine innovation with social impact to accelerate this this goal itself, because there's so many problems, and our time is limited. We have to make the changes as soon as we can. So the goal is we have to think big, but we have to start small, because we can't start in a big way and focus on this, because at the end of the day, what we have to do is that we should start small to test things out. Because if we spend a lot of resources just testing things out, and then we only to realize that this is not going to work, that doesn't work. So right now, this is an agile methodology, and to really test things out, right? So think big, start small, and move fast. And we have to find indicators. Where is it that, you know, people would be interested in the things that we do? And it's not just for social impact. This, of course, applies for any other areas of our life as well. Even in our line of work, we can definitely impact that. But more so in the social impact area, because we have to get this right. So we have to understand who are the people who would, you know, benefit from it. We have to talk to the customers. So there's a case in India. So when I first started my social impact journey, I had to go for an accelerator program through Singapore International Foundation, and they took us to this slum, one of the largest slum, Dharavi in India. And what I learned was that there is so much opportunities available just from trash that they were collecting, and apparently they were generating $680 million US dollars per year from just recycling business itself. So people were able to do that. But at the same time, there's a group NGO who built, you know, really big houses for these people who are staying in slum, because they thought that people in slum, why can't they have better living conditions, right? And they built this very nice, you know, apartment houses for these people, but only to realize that, you know, after a few months, that these people have not moved to the apartments, and they're wondering, why is it so, right? Then they realized that for these people who are living in the slums, community was everything, because that's how they grew up. If there is a fire, they would not call the fire service; they'd call their neighbors, because that's how they saved each other. They used to look out for each other, because, you know, they were in an informal system. And to them, it's more important to live in a community rather than to move to a better, you know, housing itself. But if they spoke to them and understood what they were needing without assuming, then they could have made the changes and did things differently, right? So it's very, very important to talk to people, talk to customers/beneficiaries, and then we try out in a small pilot test and things like that. And as we grow, we build, we measure, and we learn, right? So the goal for SDI, the goal for the way that we are doing things, we want to learn from the best organizations around the world, whether it's Tesla, whether it's Zappos, or even from social mission organizations like Charity Water or Unilever, right? The idea is that we want to bring the best of innovation and social impact and success that together. So I'll go through this probably another time, because I think we are running a bit short of time. The idea is, how do you break down complex problems and think in a small, manageable parts and focus on the things that matters. So you'd be surprised to know that we also teach computational thinking to migrant workers for our entrepreneurship classes. And these are very technical stuff, right? But we realize that there's a very easy way to, you know, teach people. And regardless of who you are, what's your background is, and you can learn about product development, you can learn about design thinking, computational thinking, and we do that through movies. So we use movies like Padman, which is based on true story, to train migrant workers on entrepreneurship, which goes through, so it's basically a story of this man in southern India, where he created a sanitary pad that is affordable for the women, and also involve the women to be part of the business. So there's a cooperative, and it grows and things like that. But the movie is about how he developed the product in the first place, using very simple equipments rather than utilizing all this expensive equipment that increases the price. So that goes through the entire journey of product development, testing, getting feedback. And they love it. They enjoy it because it's Bollywood, first of all. Second of all, they see all the concept coming to life and they can relate to that, right? So it's about providing that opportunities. So as I was talking about it, that a lot of times we look at problems as a problem, but what Dharavi in India has taught me is that problems are the largest opportunities for us to disrupt. For many people, it's a problem of trash, but it is generating $680 million per year for these people, and livelihood for thousands of families around in that area, right? So how we wanted to utilize some of this learning and design some of the campaigns that we did for SDI was we realized that there's this invisible barrier between the migrants and locals that we have. One is, of course, the communication barrier, which we're trying to focus on with the language classes, but there's also a social stigma that goes around. And I think we all feel it, even though many of us would not want to acknowledge it, but it happens. So first of all, we have to understand that embracing diversity is a strength. It is a strength and not a weakness for what we are doing. And migrant workers and us, we are not just similar, we're also complementary to one another, right? And why do I say that? Is because migrants I would say that they're reflections of the ancestors and forefathers of the developing nations of Singapore. How our forefathers really worked hard to build the future that we are all enjoying right now, is that we worked really hard. And but for migrant workers, they are trying to do this exact same thing for their future back at home. And social scientists, warn us that as a society progress, a lot of things happen. So Singapore is one of the best countries in the world, the highest GDP in the world. Even in San Francisco, as I share with people that I'm from Singapore, everybody's like, oh, you guys have the best GDP, you guys are the cleanest country in the world. But people know us, and I think we have made that mark. But as a society grows, a lot of negative things starts to happen, right? First, the suicide rate increases, the divorce rate increases, and filial piety goes out of the window. But then we look at these migrant workers who, work so hard, toil under the sun, yet when it comes to taking care of their family, they send back all the money that they earn here and foregoing their own luxury because they care and they have that sense of family and all of that. And if we exchange that kind of values with one another, then as a society, we don't have to have trade-offs like, just because we're developing, we'll have to let go of some of these values, but we can actually learn from one another and enhance the culture that we have and give Singapore a heart. And I think we can easily scale that up by utilizing the model of innovations, right? So as we know that for any new ideas to kick off, we have to focus on just the first few parts to make it really viral. So innovators and early adopters. So for innovators, we have only 2.5% of the people. We can't change everybody overnight, but we can focus on the right segment who can make those shifts. So innovators are only 2.5% of usually this the curve of people who are going to join this whole trend, right? Followed by the early adopters, which is 13.5% of people. So if we combine that, that's about 16% people that you need to really make that change and to cross that chasm, right? So we had an interesting observation, and this might be also interesting for Rotary, because I believe that you guys have the Rotary Club as well for different schools. So one interesting thing is that Singapore's total population is about 5.5 million. And then we check the total number of tertiary students that we have in polytechnic and universities all combined. It's about 183,000 or so. And that's about 3.3%. So that's more than the 2.5% of the people that we need to start a change, right? If we want to start seed an idea of change, we can start with these people. Then we saw another interesting thing is that if we focus on all the students from primary school all the way to tertiary institutions, that's about 900,000 people. So almost about 16.1%, which is exactly the amount of people that we need to make the changes. So this is why we focus a lot on our youth to try to engage them. But at the same time now, we're reaching out to all the people. And the idea is that if we can change their mindset about social inclusion, then we can make social inclusion a norm in Singapore. So, what we're trying to do is to do campus ambassadors with migrants and locals where they're able to facilitate. And we launched a campaign called Trust Me, I'm No Stranger, where if you buy a t-shirt that says, Trust Me, I'm No Stranger by us, an English guidebook is gifted to the migrant workers. And now you can also do a virtual scholarship to them through our mobile app so that they can learn the language. So in the long run, what happens is that when you wear the t-shirt, this basically shows that you are standing in solidarity and you believe that migrant workers are part of us and a part of our society. But at the same time, you're also enabling and empowering to remove that language barrier. So first we focus on the social stigma, and then in the long run, we focus on language barrier at the same time to bridge that gap. So that's something that we want to do, and we want to make doing good also sexy so that people feel good, but at the same time, it can be great about doing good. And we want to transform the lives of migrants, lives of people that are around us in an easy and simple way possible. And we believe that every small action counts. And we have one of our migrant students who actually gave a TED speech, and I will share the link later on. I think you'd be very inspired to hear his story, because I still, watch the video and I still get goosebumps till this day. It's been more than 5 years. The story about how he came to Singapore and couldn't speak English, and he ended up giving a TED speech about his life story, as well as also about how we can build a bridge between migrants and locals, right? So as I said, I believe that small actions, no matter however small it is, when we multiply by millions of people, we can truly transform the world. So start with something simple, by smiling to a migrant worker that you see, just striking up simple conversations, and then the rest can be taken care of. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope to see you guys in person sometime. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Sazzad. Wonderful conversation we have. Not really a conversation, but we learned a lot. And I think in this whole room, I think you are one of the youngest, but we all learned so much from you. So, there's a need for now to call upon our vote of thanks. I think that would be Suresh Hatiramani to give our vote of thanks. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, because we have so much to learn, we can't have really Q&A. But if you have one burning question that you must ask, you would like to ask now, but I'll leave it to Suresh to handle. Okay. Maybe Suresh has a question.
Thank you, President Luis. I actually have more than one question. I probably have 20, Sazzad. So we'll leave that for another time. But what I'd like to say is this, that I haven't, in all my years in Rotary, witnessed a lecture going so much over time and the president not intervening to cut it short. So that shows the quality of your presentation. It shows the commitment and the passion that you are doing your work. And it was pin drop silence. Everyone was listening. I was trying to take notes, but at some point I gave up, because the amount of things that you're doing and the way you're doing it, all I can say is respect. Anyway, Sazzad, thank you very much for a very inspirational talk. You have shown us less driven folks what passion and application can achieve. As you call it, unconventional wisdom, and you've applied it in every aspect of your life and the things that you do. You have shown care and concern for the less fortunate and it comes through very clearly in your presentation. And the way you organize that early English language training of the Bangladeshi workers shows your maturity and empathy well beyond your years. I am amazed at 21, I think about 21 or 22 that you started this mission of training migrant workers. We all know that our migrant workers are the ones most responsible for these beautiful buildings and the top-class transport system in maintaining these wonderful parks and gardens that we all enjoy. So what you're doing for the migrant workers is really, really, in a way, our society paying back through you. COVID in the last 2 years has opened our eyes about the soft underbelly that we were hiding thus far. For so long, Singapore society had kind of pushed under the carpet all these problems that existed, but COVID has revealed to us that we have a lot to do, a lot more to do, and a lot more respect to give to these hardworking men and women. A debt of gratitude is owed to them, and what better way than to reward them, to prepare their life, to prepare them for the life ahead with life skills when they return home, to reap the benefits of the sacrifices while they work so hard in Singapore. You've also shown us that there's an effective way we can repay these migrant workers and prepare them for the future life ahead. The age-old proverb about teaching a poor man how to fish rather than making him dependent on food handouts applies very appropriately here. I'm also completely taken aback, as we all should be, with your subsequent projects, DoorMart and SDI World. And you've shown, you've shown your care and concern for these migrant workers by targeting their physical health. And that in itself shows that the quality of the person that you are. All I can say once again is respect. Can I request all of us present here to give our young visionary a hearty round of applause? Very much.
Thank you very much. I think to also do justice to Sazzad, who has spent time to speak to us and also participated in our project, I'm going to end the meeting, but then if Sazzad can stay on, so some of you who has got questions, we can take it, in the next segment, which is the unofficial versions. And from there, I think we will make more greater friendship, and we'll be inspired to do more together with Sazzad. So with that, I would like to just remind you, sign up for the meeting 13th of May, which is a dinner. Okay, and for now, okay, I would like to invite those who wish to stay on, and then ask questions. Sazzad, I think you can stay with us for another 5-10 minutes. Thank you very much. So I'll first close the meeting so that those who need to go off can do so. And thank you all for coming, especially our guests from District 3312, right? From India. Okay, you feel free to stay on as well. Okay, meeting is closed.